Aloha from Cairo, the place where everything is allowed and nothing is allowed. This is the place where, despite the fact that I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, I smoke cigarettes. This is the place where instead of having a coffee break, I have a Campari break, even though alcohol is frowned upon in Egypt. But I'm taking a break. I've been invited to Cairo for the second year in a row to cover the Cairo International Film Festival for Fred Film Radio. And I did about 5 interviews today alone, which is my first day here. And I'm going to be doing more later on today, but I could, I now have a little time to myself, and I thought about recording a small video because something happened to me here during one of the interviews that I did this morning that really made me think. And I was interviewing a director from Saudi Arabia. He's one of the talents that has been selected for a platform that they do here that's called Arab Stars of Tomorrow, and that really shines a light on some of the artists who have just started working in film and who are from the Arab region. And so this director, he was from Saudi Arabia, and his name is Raed, hold on, I don't want to mispronounce or say the wrong name, Raed Al-Semari. And he made a film that has actually been shortlisted for the Oscars in the live action short film category. And I asked him a question that instantly made me feel stupid as soon as he replied to it, because I asked him something that was so Westernized in ideology that really made me think of how stupid and how close-minded we who come from the so-called Western world can be when it comes to certain topics. I asked him a question that to me didn't even seem like it was so bad, and I guess he didn't see it. It's more a reaction that I'm having to what happened. I asked him, why would a young man such as yourself start making films in an age when cinema apparently is dead, or so has discourse been around cinema for the past years? And it's true that cinema appears to be in the downfall when we look at the figures from a Western perspective, or that are coming out of the so-called Western world. But we tend to forget sometimes that the world is big, it's huge, and especially people within the film community that is so dominated by the Western perspective, we tend to forget that. So I love the cinema, but I have to say that I've been disheartened about its downfall, because many of the films that have been financed and produced and screened in cinemas just aren't that great. And, we could talk on and on, but just getting back to what I experienced today, I asked him that, why would a young man start making movies and start working in cinema, telling stories through the cinematic form, through the cinematic medium, when apparently cinema is dead? And he said, he was very kind about it too. He said, well, that may be a debate that you're having, but in Saudi Arabia, cinemas have just been reopened. And so we're kind of rediscovering or discovering it for the first time. Discovering it as an art form, as a mode of communication, form of entertainment, and so on. And I instantly felt like a jerk off, because it's true. Like, honestly, we take cinema for granted because we can, because we're so overloaded with content of all kinds that really the negative aspect of this just wealth of things that we have has actually led one of the most popular and best art forms to have been on the decline for years. And I'm talking of cinema. But that doesn't really matter, because there are parts in the world where cinema does matter a huge deal. And Saudi Arabia is one of them. I looked it up on Google, and cinemas in Saudi Arabia were closed from the early 80s to 2018. So they have literally been reopened, and people are rediscovering it. And in fact, Rahed also told me during the interview that they're so popular that the screenings are always full. And he made a joke that it's a lot easier to get a plane ticket to America or to Hollywood than to get a cinema ticket to any cinema, any film screening in Saudi Arabia, which is crazy. You know, obviously they're still reopening it, so they're not that widespread across the entire country. But when I think about it, the situation is not so different from the country where I grew up, Ireland, where cinema going was not usual for people there. I mean, film culture wasn't really that huge, especially in terms of cinema going. Especially, well, one of the reasons why that was because the Catholic Church had such a stronghold on the country that cinema was frowned upon. So people wouldn't go to the cinema because it was almost thought of as sinful. So film production in Ireland really started only in the late 80s. And it really never picked up any momentum, let's face it. I mean, you know, aside from the greats that I can think of, like Neil Jordan or Jim Sheridan, and now for sure we've got Lenny Abrahamson and so on and so forth. But I don't see a huge Irish presence in film festivals. And obviously me, I feel as much Italian as I feel Irish. I would love to see a bigger Irish presence in international film festivals. But the fact of the matter is I've been traveling to film festivals for over half a decade, and I have to tell you that the Irish presence is lacking. But that was my thought, is that, you know, this is a flaw of the film community at large, is that, meanwhile I'm getting a good text and I'm just going to make sure, is that we think of things with our own eyes, and everything that we discuss is dominated by a Western perspective. But when we look at the bigger picture, not the entirety of the world doesn't necessarily endorse our perspectives on things. What we lack is empathy, and ironically, cinema is an empathy machine, as my friend Mark Cousins would say. You know, it is a thing that is often said has taught us how to desire things, but it's also something that has taught us to empathize with things. And it's kind of symbolic that the decline of cinema coincides with the rise of populist movements. I call myself a futurist, but I'm, you know, a leftist futurist. And the futurism is symbolized by Campari in a coffee cup. What's more futuristic than that? Possibly ice lollies made with baked beans. Imagine that. Or polenta with milk. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from, and I hope I'm making a little sense, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video wherever you are in the world. This is my second time in Cairo, and it's already been much better than my first, where I was confronted with such culture shock that I thought I would never come back. But actually, it makes me realize if there was ever any need, that part of the reason why I've decided to travel so much and dedicate so much of my life to traveling is because I want to be confronted with realities that are very distant from the ones where I grew up. And that's that. And definitely this morning, unexpectedly, I had one of those moments of confrontation, and hopefully it will shape my way of thinking and influence the ways in which I approach even my job as an interviewer. Well, just a final thing, if you want to listen to any interviews that I do here at the 2019 Cairo Film Festival, here's my badge. Here's my press badge. Check out fred.fm/UK, and you'll be able to find them there. And I promise you that I promise you that they will be good and that you'll enjoy them, but that's a lie. I don't want to promise that. They're passable, because it would be far too full of myself to say that they're any good, but they will be there. That's what I can promise you. That's the most realistic thing that I can promise you, is if you go on fred.fm/UK, you will be able to find my interviews. So long, guys. Ciao.